Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about funding. Now, as somebody who has played MapleStory for about, I would say, at least 5 years, I'd say I'm somewhat decently qualified to express my thoughts on what a funding progression should be. Now, this is not going to be 100% accurate for everybody, and some people might like to do it one way while others might like to do it another way. But this progression is just what I've found to be the most efficient and most affordable way of doing it. Now, I'm by no means a free-to-play player at all, but I also don't dump like thousands of dollars into this game by the month. So I try to take advantage of, what I can. For example, events, DMTs, things like that to help me get the most efficient funding. Now, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, first thing is we have to get our endgame gear, most important. So right now, as of 2021, endgame gear involves superior Golux items, sweet waters, which I don't have on this character, CRAs, very cheap, very affordable, superior Golux earrings, Absolabs if you're going the more affordable routes. You can also run arcanes, but arcanes will be way more expensive, and personally I think Absolab is more than enough for endgame. So let's say if you want to go liberate Black Mage down the line, you'll be able to do so in 22-star Absolab gear. So there's no need for you to go arcane. You can if you want to, but keep in mind that'll be a very expensive route to undertake. Now, once you've gotten your endgame gear, we want to first work on cubing. Now, what that means is getting everything to epic potential, and then after that, you want to work in this order. First, you want to do your weapons, secondary, and emblems, because they give you % attack as potential. And you want to aim for just one line of 6% or 7% if you're doing Absolab attack. That's good enough for now. And then after that, you want to work on your accessories. And after your accessories, the same thing, you want to do 6% or 7% if it's 160 accessories like Sweetwater. You want to do 6% or 7% on the potential, one line, and that's good enough. If you get 2 lines, that's great, but we don't really need that right now. And then after that, we're going to work on the armor pieces. Now, why I say armor pieces is just armor pieces are usually the hardest ones to work on, so I usually save those for last. Accessories are the second to last hardest to work on. I would say they're actually on the same level as weapon, but weapons give you attack, which is a way better bonus than accessories. So we have to do it in the order of weapon, secondary, emblem, and then accessories and armor after that. Now, after you finish working on the 6% potential, you can start migrating over to 9%. So what that means is going to be tiering your stuff to unique, all of these items to unique potential, and then getting one line as well. So that means 9% or 10% of its Absolab. And after that, we want to do the accessories and then armor. And then after that, we can do scrolling. Now, I save scrolling for further down the line because scrolling is a lot expensive than what you might think, because you're using a lot of CSS, and CSS can build up really fast. So right now, I think they're around 10 to 20 mil for one CSS 10%. So if you're scrolling something like a weapon, which you use probably like a 15% scroll, during Fever it's going to be, I think, around 30%. but you know, those numbers don't really work super well in your favor, and it will cost a lot of CSS to make a weapon perfected. So first, we're scrolling weapon. In this case, for zeros, we have secondaries as well. So we want to scroll the weapon and we want to perfect it. We want to have, say, this is 10 out of 10, so we want to do 10 out of 10 slots. And then after we're done scrolling with our weapon and our secondaries, we have to do our accessories. So Golok scrolls are relatively affordable and definitely pretty easy to pass. They're 60%, I think they're 70% if you have 100% diligence. And that's a pretty good odd. And they give pretty good bonuses, because you get, I think, 4 stats and 3 attack per scroll. So Golux is definitely one of the most affordable funding options, believe it or not. And after we're done with Golux, we want to do our armor pieces. So things like gloves, CRAs, Sweetwaters. I usually save those Sweetwaters for last because Sweetwaters tend to not have the best scrolling unless you're priming. So the Golok scrolls definitely beat the Sweetwater. And then once we're done with scrolling, we want to go into tiering up everything else, everything to legendary in the order that I mentioned before. Weapon, secondary, and emblem. And once you do that, you want to get at least 1 line of attack or boss damage as well. You could do 1 line of boss, 1 line of attack, depends on how lucky you get, but I will at least aim for at least 1 line of attack, especially when you're starting out, because you want that damage to one-shot mobs when you're training. You're not going to be bossing as much in the early stages, so I definitely recommend attack lines over boss lines. But if you get boss lines, definitely keep them. You know, if you get 3-line boss or something crazy like that, just keep it. It's not going to be a big deal down the line, because boss and attack are somewhat interchangeable. IED I wouldn't recommend because there are a lot of sources of IED. I personally don't even have IED on my emblem on my main, so take that what you will. And I have 97% IED using 8k Legion and Familiars. Now after we're done with scrolling, we want to go into star forcing. Star forcing is definitely one of the cheapest ways to gain quote-unquote free stats, because we're getting 2 or 3 stats per star. Now I'll work on weapon first. Remember, you have to perfectly scroll your weapon before you can work on star forcing, because I believe weapons are based on how many scrolls have passed and what the attack is for your current weapon, and that's how it scales. So we definitely want to do weapon after we're done scrolling. So we want to get everything to 12 stars. So weapon to 12 stars, Golux to 12 stars, everything of that sort to 12 stars. And then after that, we want to start working on flames. So flames, you don't have to go too crazy with flames. Like on my 0, I don't really go too crazy. I would say Absolab 80 strength is good enough, or whatever your main stat is. Golux is a pain in the ass to flame, so just 32 is good, honestly. Yeah, 32 like this. Weapon, depending on what weapon you have, it's gonna be different, but I would say anything of a T5, T6 flame is good. CRAs, I just leave at 70, honestly. 70 is a good enough flame for now. And then once we're done with flames and we get something that's decent, Sweetwater is like 40 to 50, maybe 40 should be good, honestly. And then once we're done with these, you know, flames, we want to work on 17 starring. Now I say 17 star and not 15 star because 17 star, from 15 to 17 we're getting attack, whereas from 12 to 15 we're just getting flat stats for the most part, unless it's a weapon. So we want to do 17 star, definitely do weapon, accessories, and armor pieces. Now once that's done, I would recommend going to get familiars. So let me show you what I mean. Actually, yeah, I'll just show you in here. So these are epic tier familiars. They used to drop a lot before Nexon patched it, and I think if you're lucky right now, there's still some of them in auction house. I would just get these because these give huge bonuses at epic tier. So like this gives 30% IED, and that's a very good line. We want to aim for lines like this. We want to get 30% IED, 20% boss, 30% boss. Anything of this sort is nice. 2% attack just have, just because. And we also have double drop familiars. You can also get this. It's definitely a really good familiar to have when you're doing daily bosses. So once that's done, we want to work on 2-line main potting now. So like this, 2-line main potting, but this will be at legendary. I just kept that unique because it's untradeable and I don't care enough to tier to legendary. But if you're going for endgame, you definitely want at least 2 lines of main pot. So what that means is a mix of attack line and boss line, and we want just any 2 combinations of those. It could be 2 attack lines or 1 line of attack, 1 line of boss, 2 line of boss, whatever it is. And then for emblem, we want to aim for attack. So 2 line of attack, and it should be good. You could also aim for IED line, but honestly, I would just go with attack. It's just better, in my opinion, because you have a lot of sources of IED. Now, after we 2-line main pot the weapon secondary emblem, we want to work on the accessories. So, Golux earrings, sweet waters, things of that sort. We want to get at least, you know, 21% or maybe 18% if you're slightly unlucky. 18% of a stat. Now, why I say accessories first is because accessories are easier to cube than armor. And then after accessories is done with 2 lines, we have to get armor to 2 lines. Now armor, like CRAs and the hat, these are very big pain in the ass to get 2 line. I think these took at least 100 something cubes each, at least, to get 2 lines of strength. And that's at unique, so it's definitely crazy. And you also want to do your gloves first before you work on the armor pieces. The glove is definitely really important because of the critical damage it gives. Critical damage is like the next step down, or the closest you can get to an attack line. It's like attack on armor almost. It's definitely not as good as an attack line, but it's definitely a good thing. So we want at least, you know, 1 line of crit damage on gloves, and you can also get 1 line of crit and 1 line of stat like this. And yeah, so it won't be super duper hard, but it's gonna take a while. Then afterwards, we want to get at least 1 line of B-pot. So for me, it's just gonna be rare because bonus occult cubes are cheap. And I just get like 2 lines of strength. I mean, 1 line of strength or 1 line of attack. Those attack lines are pretty good on B-pots. And after we're done with B-pots and having 1 line of B-pots, we want to get a Evolved Heart. So Evolution Scrolls, also known as Evol Scrolls, give 8 attack each. And I use this heart because it's tradable. I suggest you guys use it too. And then down the line, once you guys get more towards endgame, you guys can switch to an Outlaw Heart if you guys can pay for that. But this is definitely a really good heart to have because it's tradable and you can sell it afterwards in auction house, and you can most likely make your money back, if not more. So that's definitely a good thing. But the only con is that the potential is really bad. And you also need to equip one of these ugly future roids for the heart, otherwise the heart won't work. So that's that. Now afterwards, after we scroll our hearts, or if you buy it, it's in the auction house, we want to do pet scrolls. Pet scrolls are usually free, and if you do get free pet scrolls from events, definitely use them before, you know, other things that I mentioned. Just because they're free, you know. And you can buy them in auction house for a pretty good price. I think they're around 100 mil each, which is not too bad for 2 to 4 attack pet scrolls. I just use these because they're affordable, and I feel like they're the best value. Now after we do pet scrolls, we're doing basically 3-line main pot. Now here comes the hard part. So basically everything that we mentioned before, in the same order: weapon, secondary, emblem, accessories, and then armor, we want to get 3 lines. So for weapon, again, it's boss and attack, and emblem mostly just attack, and then 3 line of your main stats on everything else essentially. And then Absolab gloves, like gloves in general, crit damage, and 2 lines of stats. That should be somewhat settleable. And then post that, we want to do 2-line B pot. So 2-line B pot is essentially tiering it to, I would say, at least unique and legendary. And that's definitely something that's achievable, but it's going to cost a lot. B pots are really expensive to work on just because of the price per cube. So just get, I would say, Absolabs. I think it's 8% max at legendary. So just get like something like I don't know, one line B pot first, and then you can get 2 lines B pot, something of that sort, and you should be good, and that should get you to at least 50k stats with 3-line main pot and 2-line B pot. Now after that, we want to do star forcing. Now star forcing is going to give a lot of bonuses at this point because everything you have is potted really well, they're scrolled really well, so the bonuses are just going to accumulate really highly. So after we get 17 stars, we want to get 22. Now, how we do 22 is not one shot. We're not one-shotting anything to 22 unless you just have the money to burn. Basically, anything after 17 star, or really anything after 15 star, if it's not a weapon, gives the same amount of attack and stats, assuming they're the same level. Well, I think they're basically the same. I think it's probably 1 or 2 stat or attack difference, but every star gives around the same amount regardless of the item. So what we're gonna do is usually just 18 star everything. Just do 18 star on everything, and then once you get 18 star on everything and you have more money, 19 star, 20 star, 21 star, 22 star. But we want even and balanced funding on all of the items. We never want to have one item where this is like, let's say 22 star and this is like 15 star. That will give you way less range as if you were to just spend what the money you spent on this and just split on all the items. The most important thing in this game, if you're not super whaling and just finishing everything in one day, is even funding. Because you never want to have one equip that's super OP. It's just not going to help your case if you want to get consistent damage. Because you're going to get pissed off, 5 days into the game. You'll be like, oh, I'm spending all this money into this game on this OP item, but then I'm not getting the range boost I wanted. Because one item is not going to give you anything. It's going to give, it's the whole collective equips that's going to matter. So once that happens, you can do 2-line flames. So I don't even have 2-line flames on this. This is on my 0. So for CRAs, I think it's over 100. You can, those are pretty good flames. For superior Golux, it's 40. Weapon, you would say T6 attack and T6 boss damage, and maybe damage too. And Absolabs, I would say definitely over 100 to 120 even. If it's Arcanes, you can get 120 up relatively easily. And Arcanes, I think 150 is a good range if you're going endgame. So yeah, that covers pretty much all of the bases that I wanted to cover. Hope this helps. By the end of this funding progression, you should have, I would say, 65 to 70k stats, depending on how your main pot is. If it's like 27% or if it's like a 30% all stat. I mean 30% main stat. So that should give you more than enough range to solo Horror Lucid and Horror Will and other endgame bosses down the line as well. And definitely enough range to do Black Mage. So yeah, hope you guys found this helpful. Leave a comment if you guys have any questions below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.